Today I want to share with you guys a 1 year, 10,000 mile review on my Yokohama Geolander G003 mud terrain tires and my RockTrix RT111 wheels. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome to 4x Trail. I'm Caleb, and today I'm stopped along one of my go-to trails here in Arizona. It's a beautiful day. I just want to stop and share with you guys kind of a longer-term review on my Yokohama tires and the RockTrix RT111 wheels that I've had on the Wrangler for the last year. They've been in a bit of a variety of terrain, from more rock crawling type terrain to sand to snowy mud, and a little bit of everything in between, as well as a lot of pavement time. So today we're just going to look at a few different aspects of on-road and off-road, my feedback after 10,000 miles on these tires, and at the end of the video we'll chat quickly about the wheels as well and how they've been holding up on my Wrangler. Well, starting here with the Yokohama Geolander G003 MT tire. It's a bit of a mouthful. These are 37 by 12.5 R17. They're the 124Q 8PR rating, which is, I believe, an 8-ply. I'll put it on the screen if I'm not right, but 8-ply and then a 3-ply sidewall. So a bit of a kind of a middle of the road, maybe towards the lighter end of the load range, which I like, especially on this particular build in its current stage, trying to keep unsprung weight light. I do give some more info on the specs of these tires in another video, which I'll leave a link for below. But after running them for 10,000 to 12,000 miles or so, just want to share a few things about them that have stood out to me, good and bad. For the sake of this video, just so you know, I've only rotated these tires once, so around 5,000 miles I rotated them, and they are due for another rotation right now. So not as often of a rotation as some people do with mud terrains. It's more of a typical tire rotation time frame. That's more for just because of the stage of life I'm in and as busy as we are and the different vehicles we have. It doesn't always make sense to rotate them quite as often. And PSI, I found after a chalk test for my scenario around 34 PSI. I recommend doing a chalk test yourself, even if you're running the same size tire on a Jeep Wrangler JKU. Still do a chalk test because everybody's load is a little bit different. Their vehicle weighs a little different. It sits a little different. So chalk test is super helpful, but in my scenario, around 34 PSI seems to be a pretty good place to run these tires on the road. Off-road, I usually deflate to about 15 PSI. I'm not running beadlocks on this vehicle, so yeah, 15 PSI off-road, 34 on-road. Starting with the wear, it's been pretty even. These tires had a slight hum from the very beginning. Not an annoying hum, just a slight hum on road. And that's increased a little bit. Here they are at 40 miles per hour on a bit of a rougher pavement. And here they are at about 70 to 75 miles an hour on the highway. So you can tell on the highway at that speed, it's about 50% wind noise and 50% tire noise. So not bad in my opinion for a mud terrain tire. I don't see them really getting any worse, maybe a little bit worse progressively, but I think it's going to be minimal at this point as long as I can maintain the right PSI and continue to rotate the tires. I think these tires would be good for easily another 15,000 miles, probably more if I keep them rotated well. You can see after even being on the rocks a good bit and a variety of terrain, the tread blocks have held up really well. There's no chunking. These are a bit of a harder tire than my Milestar Patagonias that I was running before them, which means they're not quite as sticky on the rocks. That's one thing I don't like as much. They don't warm up as quickly on the rocks, and so the Milestars just gripped from the get-go off-road. These are a little bit tougher and a little bit harder of a compound, I think, so they're not quite as sticky off-road. Now, as far as how they perform in the sand, I don't do any deep sand wheeling, really. It's more so just going through washes, you know, here in Arizona or out in the Anza Borrego. I hit some patches of sand out there. But they did fine. You know, there was a few moments where I felt like I just needed to keep momentum going. I didn't want to stop and try to restart in any kind of deep sand with these. Maybe that was just a feeling I was giving myself falsely, but it felt like I needed to keep momentum going in the sand when I was wheeling with these things. But they did fine, and there was minimal slippage in the sand as long as I kept the vehicle moving. Now, I did some winter wheeling up in Sedona this past winter right after a snow, and the snow was melting, and that red clay kind of soil up there was just really sloppy and wet. These did fine. They cleaned out well. They felt very stable in a slippery kind of semi-snowy, wet, loose trail situation, going from mud onto rocks, back to mud, back to rocks. They gripped really well in that sort of hybrid scenario. Mainly, I noticed the stability was really good, cornering through some tighter wood sections of that trail in the wet and in the slop. They gripped really well. They gave a lot of confidence and stability in that scenario. I already mentioned on-road, the noise. I'd say the handling and drivability on-road is really good with these. You know, that's a flat-topped tire, not a domed tire. So they ride pretty flat on the road with really good contact patch, and I've been happy with their performance on road. I can't speak to wet on-road driving as much because it doesn't rain much here in Phoenix, but as far as dry handling and stopping, accelerating, they've performed really well for me. If you like the Nitto Trail Grappler or the Toyo Open Country type design where it's a flat top, more contact patch, open lugs on the side, and more of a focused tread pattern in the middle, definitely check out the G003. I think it's very comparable to those two other tires. It's, I think, a little lighter weight and definitely a little bit less of a price point. So something worth checking out for sure if you like that style of tire. Now on to the RockTrix RT111 wheel that I've been running for the last year as well. You know, there's not a ton to talk about when it comes to this type of wheel. It's not a beadlock, so there's not a lot of moving parts here, but they've held up pretty well. I think there's two things really to note. They've taken some hits on the rocks, as you can see, like any wheel would when you hit up against a rock on the trail. It's going to leave a bit of a mark, and these definitely show any kind of wear on the trail like that, and they show that very well. I don't think the finish is necessarily super durable, but again, to be expected when you're banging up against rocks on the trail. The other thing to notice is the center cap has this sort of rubber like cover on it, and in the sun over time one of those peeled off. It started yellowing and kind of peeling up, so I just peeled it off, and the center cap actually looks better without them, I think. Here's the shot of what it looks like without the rubber cover on it. But that's something else to note, a small thing. But what I like about the RockTrix wheels are they've held up really well, and I'm actually running a set on the GX470 as well that we tow with. So far those have been great. I'll do a separate video on those at some point, but they hold up well, and they're a really competitive price point if you're trying to stay lower cost. I like that they offer an aggressive stance. The offset they give you and the back spacing, it really sets the wheel and the tire out. You don't really need to mess with wheel adapters in a lot of cases to get a more aggressive stance with these wheels. So considering the price point these wheels are at, if that's an important factor to you, but you still want something that looks good, performs good, and has an aggressive stance, check out the RockTrix wheels. I think they're a pretty decent product. Well, between the Gladiator build we have coming up here on the channel, some trips with our Opus 15 camper, some more GX470 content, and some stuff with the Wrangler, there's lots to stay tuned for. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'd also love to hear from you today in the comments. What tires and wheels are you running on your rig, and how do you like them? How are they holding up? I think it's just good information for people to see who are in the market for some new wheels and tires for their off-road vehicle. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon.